Velkomin á Málstofu Hafrannsóknastofnunar og eins og búið að vera svolítið óvinnlegt þetta misseri þá erum við stundum með þetta ekki beinlínis á okkar 50 dögum eða svoleiðis þá hefur verið að breyta til það sem við erum að nota tækifærið að fá vísindamenn sem eru að koma í heimsókn til þess að vera með erindi. En ég ætla að fá Teresu til að kynna þennan vísindamann því hún í tengslum við hann. So, Teresa.
Hi, everybody. So I'm here to introduce Nuno Vasco, and he's assistant curator at the Oceanário. And they came here we were sending live cod to the Oceanário, and he's going to give a talk on their ocean fund.
Okay, so good morning everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and thanks for the kind invitation. So Oceanário de Lisboa is a public aquarium in Lisbon, Portugal, where both me and Gonçalo work. I'm an assistant curator and I'm in charge of the collections and all the conservation work. So today I'm going to share with you some of the conservation projects we've been funding and involved with. So we opened in 1998, so 20 years ago, and we immediately started doing some both ex situ conservation work and in situ conservation work. As for ex situ conservation work, we teamed up with other scientists in the conservation centers and universities, aquacultures, and we started working, for example, in corals, coral fragments and breeding corals in a closed environment, in captivity, and try to understand more about biology of tropical corals. We also have a large breeding programs, and we've been successfully breeding some interesting species like rays, sharks, some fish, penguins, some seabirds, and also sea otters. Besides the corals, also jellyfish. So a lot of successes in terms of breeding programs of animals in captivity. The important thing about the breeding programs is not just that we can display these animals in our exhibitions and for education purposes, but also to understand more about their biology in a closed environment where we can get easily data that sometimes it's not easy to get when you're working with wild animals, as I'm sure you all know. But also we promote, and the aquariums both in Europe and the United States in general promote exchange of animals between institutions, which the goal is not to try to extract the least possible number of animals from the wild. So our in situ conservation work started specifically in 2007 by giving financial support to conservation projects in partnership with other institutions. For example, the first award was the Gulbenkian Ambient Award, and we teamed up with Inaqua and National Geographic Channel to attribute funding to conservation projects. We give small grants for projects up to 5 projects every year. We sponsor these small projects. It's a very simple process, the submission by email, internal evaluation by our team, and there's an yearly report and the possibility to apply again for next year. We've funded projects in a lot of different subjects, from animals to habitats to other conservation initiatives. And in 2015, so 3 years ago, the reality for Oceanário changed a little bit. We became private. We were bought by Oceano Azul Fundação, so it's a foundation, and it now owns Oceanário. This Oceano Azul Foundation is built on 3 main pillars: ocean literacy, ocean conservation, and capacity building. We now also co-manage Marine Animal Rehabilitation Center. It's the largest in Europe. So there's a coordination between Oceanário de Lisboa, but the Portuguese Wildlife Society, and the University of Vera, which is in the north of Portugal. So we rehabilitate all kinds of seabirds, also some small cetaceans like dolphins, some seals, turtles, all kinds of animals that are stranded or have some problems. We rehabilitate the animals. We have specialized staff, and then we put, if possible, we reintroduce them back into the wild. One of the first initiatives with the fact that when we became private is the Ocean Conservation Fund. It's a fund that we created in order to support marine conservation initiatives, projects. The first edition was last year. The theme was, every year is a different theme. The last year was sharks and rays. There was a total of amount of 200,000 euros, and there were 3 winner projects. This year's Ocean Fund, the theme was threatened species, and the winners have just been announced last week. That's why they're not here yet. I basically didn't have time to prepare all these things with the cod move. But 2 projects were funded. One with the sperm whales in Madeira, which is the islands in Portugal, and about the European eel, which is critically endangered in Europe. And also, these are the 2 winning projects this year. And the total amount for this year was 150 years, so increased in 50,000 years, 150,000 years. As you can see, the financial support to conservation projects changed drastically in numbers, increased drastically in numbers after we became private. So with the foundation, being owned by the foundation allowed us to give a lot more money towards conservation projects. And it keeps growing every year. And I don't have the numbers for 2018 yet, but it's going to be over the numbers of 2017. So the goal is to keep going upwards. So now that I've basically introduced what the Oceanário is and where is it placed in terms of the foundation and the private institution, I'm going to talk about one of the projects we've been sponsoring for well, I think it's our longest project. We've been funding this project from 2013 now, so 5 years from now. It's in São Tomé, which is an island nation in West Africa, right over the equator line. Oh, there you go. So you see that tiny turtle there? That's where São Tomé is located, so right over the equator line, West Africa. And it's constituted by 2 main islands, the island of São Tomé and the island of Príncipe. So, geographic context. So it's a breeding area for 4 species of sea turtles and oceanic habitat for 1 species. There are 7 species of marine turtles worldwide. So, and from those 7, all of them are endangered. And from all of those 7, 5 occur in São Tomé. Some challenges for working in a place like São Tomé and about marine sea turtles conservation. So the turtle meat has been part of São Tomé's gastronomic culture for years. So it's a tradition to eat turtle meat. We're talking about one of the poorest countries in the world. The ban on hunting of sea turtles is very recent, only 4 years old. And there's a perception of Western influence towards this change. So it's not sometimes easy for them to accept Westerners coming to their place and telling them that they should not do that, while their ancestors have been hunting a turtle and eating a turtle for many, many years. And reinforcement, it doesn't always work as we, in terms of conservationists, would like it to work. So the main objectives of the project: scientific data collection, protection and monitoring of the nesting beaches, capacity building of the local technical team, this is very important, increase awareness of local community, including the authorities, communication and outreach, and to promote economic alternatives to sea turtle trade. So we had several students, both local from São Tomé, other from there are 2 students here that are actually from Portugal. They went there and to collect samples for genetic, to understand the population. They recorded and protected and monitored the nesting beaches, both during the day and night. They are helping the local team and in having a lot of time dedicated to educate and to engage them in the technical aspects of the sea turtle biology and conservation initiatives. So that's one of the main things that they're developing in São Tomé. So local community, including authorities, as you can see on top left, awareness and education. The team goes frequently to schools and to talk about sea turtle conservation and sea turtle biology. Communication and outreach. You can see here this little kid on the top left with a children's book. They published, the team published a children's book, about 10,000 copies that have been distributed for free in all the schools in the country. It's about a voyage of a sea turtle that does the migration route and the threats this turtle faces, and well, basically from a baby turtle till adulthood and giving the descendants. A lot of initiatives, communication and outreach. They have film festivals, some sculpture contests, drawing competitions, outdoor games, a football tournament. And these people here, people in São Tomé, are very competitive between themselves. So that's something they can work with in order to clearly or help them to pass this conservation message. They had a cooking contest, and in this cooking contest, they used alternatives to turtle meat. So we're talking about dishes that are usually prepared with turtle meat, and they're now using alternatives to turtle meat. And it's again a competition, which is something they really engage to, and helps them to better understand what the reasons behind the importance of preserving and conserve the turtles. Media, of course, it's important to spread the message, and since we're talking about a really small country, everything this team does is always something that the media wants to know more, and they're covering all their initiatives. So this is how. So that's why the message is spreading so fast, and we're having very good results in such a short amount of time. So, and of course, economic alternatives to sea turtle trade, because most of these people that they're involved with, they lived from hunting sea turtles, and in order to prevent them of doing so, they need to create alternatives. So convert turtle poachers in beach rangers and educators. They have now, I believe, 10 or 15 people that used to be turtle poachers, and they're now part of the team, and they're beach rangers, and they're basically doing surveillance in the beaches and doing the reinforcement needed. Ecotourism. Some of the eggs that are laid on the nests, they are laid on the beach, and that can be not safe from wild boars, for example, and pigs and dogs. A lot of animals that could go in and eat the eggs are collected. They're taken to incubation centers, and that's where they hatch, and then they do they release the baby turtles, and they talk about with the local community, and they do it all together with the local community. And of course, they can optimize this and having tourists to see the whole event. And while they're doing this, they're talking about sea turtle conservation and their importance, and well, just to increase the message a little bit more and to have an alternative to sea turtle trade. Local people created a museum of sea and artisanal fishing. It's operated by them. It's also another economic alternative. And they're now starting an exchange program between the two islands of the country. So, because all of this that you've been seeing is being done in São Tomé, which is the main island. And the smaller island, Príncipe, they also have people that are very keen into start cooperating with them. So they're now having an exchange program and people coming back and forth between the two islands and trying to increase the program and to spread the program onto Príncipe Islands. So the next steps, it's basically the word increase. Increase the area of protection and monitoring, increase communication and outreach initiatives, increase economic alternatives and community involvement. This is crucial. And increase the team number, especially with local people, of course, in order for them to keep up with the program. Sorry. And I'd like to thank the amazing team. They're doing all the work. They're doing fantastic work in not such great environment because of all the problems that you see they're facing. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Is it just Portuguese projects you're funding, or is it international?
International, yeah.
And do you focus on, like, you know, the poorer regions, for example, Africa, where they don't really have financial research?
Not specifically. It can be worldwide. It doesn't matter who's applying or the origin of the investigator applying, and it doesn't really matter where the work is being carried on. So it's worldwide.
Lots of potential for
Yeah,
everyone.
I think so, yeah.
Just a follow-up question on that one. You said that last week you granted European eel project.
Yes,
Well, the range of European eel is huge.
yes.
Do you know where the focus is?
Yes. So, if I remember correctly, the goal is to understand. This is basically to find the holy grail of the European eels, which is the breeding process, the Sargasso Sea and all the cycle. And what I think is that they're working. It's from the Zoological Society of London, the project, and in consortium with the University of the Azores in Portugal, in the islands. So what they're trying to do, and that has not been done before, as far as I know, is to tag these eels in the Azores, because they occur in the Azores, in the rivers in the Azores, because it's the closest place from the Sargasso Sea. So, and the problem is that the battery lifetime, when they tag the turtle, they're coming from the Europe mainland, and to get to the Sargasso Sea, they lose the signal. So what they're trying to do is to tag them in the Azores, which is, I believe, like half away than it was from the mainland, and to see to know if they can find a little bit more about the breeding cycle. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for a very nice talk.
Thank you.
Very interesting in those turtles. Do you actually see your program that you have been working on for 5 years actually working in terms of number of turtles coming to beach, and also do you find that the work of the community has worked in terms of changing the attitudes? And
Mhm.
so do you think there are less approaches now and less turtles being consumed as a delicatessen?
Yes. Yes and yes. I've got this full report from the last 5 years, and it's really interesting. Actually, I've asked the team to include graphs of the number of turtles that they've seen nesting, the number of turtles as they've been released. I can tell you, for example, from 2016, the number of turtles hatched were around 22,000, the small ones that were released back in the wild. And the last report that I got recently, we're talking about 75,000 small turtles. So that's a big increase with just a small amount of money, and they can make that can make a big difference particularly in a small place like São Tomé. And regarding your second question, yes, the community is much more aware of the importance of sea turtle conservation, and the fact that most of the poachers are basically it's the local people that see the poachers and call the authorities, and so you can see that a lot, and you can see that especially in the little kids. It's having a huge effect on the way of their perception of the importance of the turtles, and I'm sure it's all related to the amazing work they're doing there, especially with the younger generations. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for a very nice talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.